Do you want to say hi? Do you want to say hi? Hi, guys. Hello. I know Gavin had his shots today, so he's a little bit quiet and shy. So we're going to just, have to. Oh, hey, do you want to say hi? I know. He's a little bit like, no, not really. All right. So you can go sit down. You can go lie down. I called him all the way over here, and he looked like it was like I was pulling him by, one of those cords. Anyway, hi, everyone, and welcome. I have really been, I don't know about you guys, have you seen everything and everyone and their mother is talking about the Petito case and, the Laundries and all this kind of stuff. And so what I wanted to talk about, and we all know a lot of it, but what I wanted to really talk about today was, as I like to say, dive under the wave. I want to kind of go a little bit deeper than perhaps a lot of what I'm seeing on television. I yawn when I'm reading and chatting. So I hope that I'm on. I think I am. It's let's see. Oh, Scott, good to see you. Cammie, I'm just gonna say hi to people for a second. Is it Alyssa? Sherry, hi. Gary. Oh, up a match. Here we go. Texas Lassie, I know you are. Good to see you. Let's see, Brittany, hi. Romsas, I don't know if that's a dot or it is a dot. There's maybe something on my. Hello, everybody. Positive friendship. That's sweet. Mama Lisa, welcome. And let's see. Said hi to Tony. Just wanted to kind of Cassie, Grandma Moses. I love that. Thank you. All right. So welcome. What I want to jump into, because I've got a lot that I do want to cover, and I know I'm being so good. I feel like, oh my gosh. I wrote a bunch of things down. Now, if I put them on the computer, that'd be amazing. No, I did. And what I really wanted to kind of cover with you guys today is, first of all, have some of you seen the postcards that Gaby wrote to the sister, Brian's sister, Cassie? And I'm going to talk about some of these deeper things. You may have seen them already, but I'm going to show them to you anyway. I'll come by in a bit and say hi again to some folks, but I want to just see where it is here. Let's see. I've been so crazy busy, but it's been a good crazy busy. Meaning I'm shifting a lot of stuff, which is why I'm back with you guys. I'm shifting a lot away from, the focus. And this has been, I'll tell you something, having, and I hate to say this, but a case like this, like something around Gaby, is really just bringing up a lot of like, wow, we missed something in the world. We're missing something. We need to see more about what has been going on. And I want to say also, we've missed so much about, in terms of the way we've communicated in the last 2 years. And I really am going to do more about that later. But when we look at the way we've learned to communicate, which is snark, superior snark, better snark, let me get back at you. I mean, that's kind of been the way, snark. And we've made it okay in the world. But let me, for un momento, I want to go over to, and I know I had it up, so I'm gonna search till I find the damn thing. Okay, I bet. So what I was gonna say to y'all, it's so funny. It's like so much of my my ADHD that I have really been getting a lot better with. It's very interesting, to learn all of these executive functions. And I can talk about that in another thing, but really starting to work more on focus and things like that. And, these are just things you learn. You can't wake up and go, oh, I'm going to be better because everybody's telling me I have a problem with focus or I'm scattered. And I don't mean that like, I don't mean that as a thing to you guys, but I mean that in general. Like if someone's always telling you something, like you are always forgetful. And then you realize, oh, I am forgetful, So let's go to what was going on. And I want to just mention this because the postcards were important in my world. While Gaby and Brian were on the road, Gaby wrote postcards from her to ostensibly Brian's niece and nephew. And so I want to see if I can just share this with you guys, because I'm really kind of like a little funkadoodle with the sharing, but I'm going to try it. So let's see if I can do it. So the point I'm making is that, and the reason I'm bringing this up is that one of the things that, again, I think is very important to share with you guys is that, let's see, it says a video file, share screen, select a window. Okay. I don't know. I'm going to have to do the entire screen, aren't I? I don't know. I don't know how to do it. Okay, so give me a second. So what I was going to, wait a second. I think I got it. Okay. And I'm so bad at this stuff. Actually, it's just that I don't like to multitask because I get easily confused. So I want to see if I can share that one thing instead of the entire screen. I don't know. You know what? I am going to come back to this in a moment because I want to keep going. But one of the things I want to say, oh, it is on. Okay, I have the correct name of it. One of the things I want to say about this, and part of why I want to show it to you, here it is. Okay, boom, there we go. I hope you guys can see that. So what we're looking at here is this is a postcard that Gaby wrote to Brian's nephew. Or is it niece? I get them confused, but this might be the nephew. But check out that it says Aunt Gaby. So in other words, she was already, even on the trip and everything else, because there'd been so much said about, was she the fiance? Did she break up with him? What was going on? Well, I think this kind of solidifies that she was in the family. Both of the postcards I have, this is the one she wrote to Alex. And how interesting is it that this says Garden of the Gods? And of course, she's with God. So I think when we look at these kinds of little and I've always believed coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. So when we see those things that are kind of like syncing up, I really think that, yes, it can be our intuition telling us something, but I also feel like it's a very strong indication that there's a message here. And, I was thinking about what Gaby's dad said about Gaby's an angel and she taught us and she touched the world. I think that he's coming from a point of view of the father and, how obviously his daughter is so important to him. But also for us, she touched us in a way that some of us haven't even developed yet. And what I mean by that is, I can only go back to a prior case, and y'all know what it was that I was on for like how many videos. But one of the things with that's very profound for me is that we either remember the dead or it's kind of like not just honor them, but something about them is so memorable that it transforms our life. And I think we all want that. When I see that someone who has died in your family or, it's funny because I went through, I don't know, I must be going through Scorpio period because I'm obsessed with the death thing. I don't know what this is, but when you look at like this entire thing that's going on and all of the death that has been going on, I see so many daughters when they lose their father, they say, I'm so grateful you were my dad. I think, I'm really glad you were my dad. You were an amazing father. So the reason I'm saying this is because there's either we miss them and we honor them, or we recognize that their death must not be in vain. And I think there's a very big difference from that. So basically, this is just, oh my gosh, me and Uncle Brian were sitting on a rock, eating a snack after our long walk, and the fattest squirrel I've seen ever came right up onto my lap, and with its tiny hands, stole a piece of the granola bar I was eating. Can you believe it? He must steal everyone's food. Something on man. Everyone's food here on, I don't know. That's wild. That's wild, a squirrel, LOL, and Aunt Gaby. So, and I like that, Aunt Gaby. So what I want to say about this, let's see, do you want to, nope, don't see that. Okay, good. So one of the things, I'm going to try to close that. I don't know. Let's see if, oh, good, I can. I'm back. Okay. So one of the things I want to say about that, and there's a couple other postcards, but what's important there is that Gaby was a part of the family. So let's back up here, okay? Because I want to talk about what I'm going to cover today, because I think it's going to answer some of the things you're bringing up perhaps on chat without me, because I don't get to see it. I'd love to be interactive with y'all. So one of the things I want to say is I want to talk about, Gaby's leaving when Brian was in a mood. I'm going to talk about her pain and her parents. I'm also going to personal pain and then her parents as a separate thing. I'm going to also touch on Brian's parents and their love for Gaby. And I also want to talk about the sister Cassie, because I think she's important. So I'm going to be covering a lot, but I'm going to move as quickly as I can. But I'll come up for air every once in a while, and I will talk about, I'll look for some of your thoughts too. Okay. So one of the things we know about Gaby, I'm going to cover this first. We know that it's been told to us, we've heard it, that when she left him and went somewhere else, it was because he was in a mood, right? And I always say this to people, and they kind of like go, we have to remember that women are emotional, but men are moody. And I got to tell you, sometimes moody is worse, because moody is like, it's like a storm that comes up. Like it really just kind of like comes across the sky like this fast, moody storm that comes in. Whereas emotional is kind of like, and what I want to say is that it's like a black cloud. Moody can be like this black cloud that can be frightening. Whereas emotional is something that just like, pops up and you deal with it. So it is a different energetic that we see when a man is moody, and it can be very scary. And that's why for all you guys out there going, how come when I'm like talking, she doesn't listen or she just doesn't respond? Well, she doesn't respond because as a woman, we're trained to freeze. Like we freeze when you're yelling. We don't know what to do. Like literally, and I was talking to a woman about this, and that's just another video, but basically when a man is going crazy, we do one of two things. We either recoil and we can't speak because we're afraid it's going to come at us, right? Or the second thing we do is we kind of start crying. Now, I want to say this. A lot of times when a woman cries, like because a man's yelling, it's because her feelings are kind of coming up and she doesn't know how to deal with them. So they come out, and they come out by crying because it's like, and I remember now crying more when I was younger, and I want to say hi to people in just a minute. I think I want to get back to this and then cover some of it. So one of the things that I really feel that we need to look at with Gaby is that I think Gaby was in a lot of pain, but I don't think she really understood why. And I do want to talk about her parents and, because I think that we always just, gloss over things. But I want to really talk about the parents because I think her parents are absolutely the most adjusted, like wonderful people on the face of the earth. I mean, look, nobody's a saint, right? Everybody has their issues. But the truth is that both Gaby's father and Gaby's mother loved her a lot. And even they were not married. They had a relationship when they were younger. Gaby came to be, and they both were terrific parents to her. And I think what we're looking at now is, so you got these two great sets of parents, right? And so many people say, well, she was abused. And yeah, she was. I'm not going to deny that, but she was abused, and why do so many women stay? And and I want to answer that. I want to answer that because I think there's an energetic that we really want to cover that's in this. I want to make sure that people are here, because sometimes this thing, like, nothing goes on the chat, so I want to make sure you guys are there. But so if you can hear me, just say yes. Okay. And hi, Laura. And so a couple things. Jerry just said it. Thank you. I'm glad I got that message, because it said, I do this recoiling with my dad and brother. You know what, though? It's not that it's awful. It's that we don't know what to do. Literally, when that amount, and by the way, we're talking about masculine energy, right? Because masculine energy is not the same as feminine energy. Even though both can be violent, like masculine energy is danger. It's like, it comes at you and you're like, it really is that your life's in danger. When a man raises his voice to a woman, which a lot of people don't understand, that is abusive, when you yell at each other. And I think it's like this thing that comes out, and it's like, we just go, ooh. So what I want to say about that is that her parents split. And something that I want to say to you, I know I said this earlier, but okay, good. Thanks, Scout. Appreciate you, and everybody can hear me. Okay, good. On May 5th, 19, I'm still back in another century. Gaby's dad tweeted a photo of Gaby and Tara, his wife. He tweeted another photo of Gaby with the caption, So I yawn when I'm like in this state. Stop getting older. I can't stand your growing up. And it really hit me because obviously parents, want they want their children to stay in that beautiful place forever. But one of the things my dad used to always say, well, getting old sucks, but what's the alternative? It used to be a joke in our family, like, well, what's the alternative, right? Like, you're going to leave or what, And so I thought that was like very, it was very, in some ways prophetic, stop getting older, and I don't think he meant it. And I don't think that, it was anything that was intentional, but really, I think what happens though sometimes is that things are said and we hear them later, and we go, oh, I said that, or that person said that. And I think there was some kind of prophecy around, around certain things. Now, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. What I want to cover right now is the relationship that Gaby interpreted and why she stayed with Brian, because that's the title of this video. Really, why would she stay with this guy? Why would she? 1111. It's 1111. Oh no, 111. I like the ones, the very 111 people. Hey, if you think about it, like this video. I always forget to tell people that, like this video. Wait for it. Subscribe. I'm not like polished in that way. So, okay. So Gaby had two parents that obviously didn't get married, right? People don't get married. And then they split, obviously loving Gaby, and they went on to marry other people. So I think that one of the things that, and I'm going to get back to what Louise is saying about arguments and stuff, because I want to talk about that. There's a very big difference between raising your voice and going, what the heck is going on around here? And screaming at the top of your lungs with every bit of anger. I think that's what I was talking about, Louise. I want to be very clear because I think you're making a point, which is, some people go, hey, where's the blah, blah? Why didn't you put it away? People do stuff like that. I'm not talking about that. Or why didn't you do the dishes? That's different than someone whose veins are popping, screaming because they're angry. That's scary. Okay. And there are people that go from 0 to 100. And I don't think most of us, and I'm coming on this because it's onto this because it's important. I'm realizing I can't put that off, because you see a lot of people think, oh, well, people get mad. Yeah, they get mad, but they don't scream at the top of their lungs. I'll never forget a friend of mine doing that. And I am no longer friends with him or his husband, and they're great people, something against them. It's just that he got so angry, his veins were popping, and I was like, I don't want to be around this person. It's terrifying me. And I remember just freezing. I didn't know what to say. Because when someone's that angry, it's scary. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. Now, one of the things I want to say, even when parents, I think I answered that for you, Louise. I don't think that people are going to beat each other just because they're angry. I'm not talking about that. I'm really talking about someone who goes from, you're angry about something to enraged where you're going to tear apart the room. And I think when you see that, I'm going to tear apart the room, even if like it may not be that to other people, but it is to you, that's what counts. All right. So Gaby's parents went on to marry other people very happily. Her dad married Tara, seems like a lovely person. Her mom, I can't remember his name right now, I have them all written down, married another guy, very nice. And it's very interesting how their energies are similar. Like they all four seem to get along. But let's back up for a minute. And say, it's just common knowledge that people want their parents to be together. They want that kind of like, my dad and my mom are married, or my dad and my mom are together, whatever that looks like, or my mom and mom, dad and dad. I don't want to leave anybody out. Whatever it is, you really want your parents to be together. And I think that if we look at why Gaby didn't leave what was an abusive relationship, it has to do nothing with her parents. You see, this is the thing that's very interesting. Here we have what looks like, and in my opinion, a very healthy relationship. I mean, even the parents, they get along. They talk to one another. They both have their feelings. They have their spouses. But I think what we're looking at is, let's look at Gaby for a minute. Everybody, I think we forget that just because parents may handle something well or something may have a healthy vibe to it, that doesn't mean that she's not going to be damaged from it. And by damaged, I mean our lives are determined by what we make meaning of. And therefore, we have to look at Gaby. When a child's father leaves, and I don't care how old they are, when a child's father leaves, I know this was true for me. It took me years. I was like, how old was I when my dad, I think I was like 10. And I remember I remember being so angry at him at the time. Now, Gaby was far younger. But one of the things I want to say is that there is a part of it that you blame yourself. And you think, if I had done this better, if I'd been a better kid, or if I'd done so, and it doesn't matter how many times your parents say it's not your fault, or whatever. I don't know if they did or didn't. Not the point. The point is that how we interpret it determines what's going to happen. So I really believe in these, again, this is all my opinion. I could write this across the screen. People would still go, that's wrong, but whatever. It's only my thinking. It's only my vibe. If Gaby, in fact, was sad, depressed, anxious, these are things that happen to kids when a home is uprooted or, I want to say unsettled. And those are formative years for her. So we're looking at a time when things were uprooted, and watching parents go through things, even if they're fine and they learn how to deal with it. But think of it with Gaby. Because her parents obviously came through with flying colors and they're terrific folks, and I mean that sincerely, we have to look at how Gaby interprets it too, because if she on any reason, any level saw that for some reason deep down, because people are always going, well, it looks like she had low self-esteem. It's like, okay, but how does that show up? Not just with Brian, but in her life. And I think it's like we overcompensate, right? We try to be better at something. So what would she be trying to be better at? Well, first of all, she's bringing her mate in on her work. She's bringing her mate in on everything. So they are together 24/7 because her parents split. Now, that's not to say she didn't have a great relationship with each of them. Again, I think we have to look at this as under the surface and just an idea that she probably on some level didn't want to fail with the situation with Brian. Because even when I looked at the images of her, I don't know about you guys, but I looked at it and I went, that does not look like a woman in love. Like it looked like a girl kind of having a good time. It looked like someone so happy. And because I didn't see, and when I say this to you guys, there's a look that people give each other when they're really in love. And you know what I mean? There's this look of like, man, I respect you, or you're just the best. There's a higher quality that they look at one another with. And I have been privileged to see both, And when I see people who really, really like each other, there's a very different vibe. And I think you guys get it. Like when you're sitting with a couple that really likes each other, you are having just as much fun being around them because they are this unit that's just having a good time. And I'm saying this because I feel like some of what I watched with Gaby, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it too, was she was having fun with him, but what was going on too was for her finally getting to win, if you will. And I don't mean win like lose. I'm trying to think of how to win and lose. I'm trying to think of how to put it. Like, there is a thing about the idea that we are here in relationships to heal our wounding. And if we look at that, we can say we either succeed or we don't. And if we succeed at it, what happens is we face each other and we recognize that, oh my God, this guy's like my mom, my dad, the worst part of them. And then we go, that's a part of me too. And we can work through this. And it takes two people to be healthy, right? So what begins to happen is both people have to come together. And then what happens is if you're still standing after all of the, you're like my mom stuff comes out, right? And you can still communicate. And you recognize that your mate is not your parent, then that relationship will have a solid footing. Because you always connect with the familiar on some level. You have to, because it's something you want to recreate. I'm just looking at people. Okay. Yeah, Gaby did have siblings. Thanks for saying that. I got in the YouTube riptide. That's actually a very funny handle. Okay, so I'm curious what you guys think about that. So when we look at that, when we look at the way Gaby, right, and again, this is, I'm doing a little bit of my woo-woo thing here. I'm kind of being a little intuitive. And that's one of my gifts is I can kind of like, if you can imagine, we all kind of have an elevator system, right? Like our chakra, so to speak, or energy. And our elevator system can go all the way down, or we don't have to go all the way to the basement. Some people don't want to go that far. But I can kind of like go under the wave and kind of see a little bit. And so what I'm seeing is just that I think Gaby tried too hard with Brian. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean it in a way that it mattered to her. I think that she saw how well her father communicated and how well her mother was communicating. And she wanted to create a unit that they could communicate well together and have kids together and stay together. Because that's something that we would look to heal in ourselves, right? Because that's kind of therapy 101. But what I want to say about that is that can explain a little bit of how we can have these relationships show up, right? That are like, why on earth would she stay with him? Why? Well, I think the thing is that for Gaby, it was that she, if you really think about it, she was the one who was creating the entire relationship. And when I say that, I'm not trying to like say, other people, well, maybe, I think that he did what he could. Notice how I said that tonality? We're going to talk about him in a second. But I think that the truth is that I think Gaby endowed him with qualities that he did not have. And I think that a lot of women do that. I think we tend to, especially if we're in the mode of healing from our past, right? And I think that, and I love that Caroline said this, Gaby put more of the effort in. I definitely think I have to say, like, it's hard to tell using the word effort because I would say that's kind of a true, look at it. But what I say is Gaby had more at stake with the effort putting in. Because you see, once you have a situation where you're, if you will, you're looking to heal like a parental thing or getting, having a man stay in the room with you. Think about that. She had some nervousness and she called it OCD or whatever they want to call it. We don't know whether she was diagnosed with that. At least I don't. Or is that something that, Brian and his family decided she was? See, and then she could go, oh yeah, that's my OCD. Like whatever it is, she can blame it on herself. And one of the reasons women blame it on themselves, ready for the number one reason women blame it on themselves? Because what we are responsible for, we control. Think about that. If I say that I'm the reason he's beating me, then I think I can control it. I think my better behavior can do that, and I think that's what happens, right? So we are trying to take the blame because if it's our fault, we can fix it. And the thing is, we can't fix what isn't ours. And when you have someone like Gaby, who I think someone just said it so beautifully, Caroline did it. Let's see. You want to recreate what you've witnessed and idealized. And I love this. Paz said her father said she was not diagnosed with anything. See, this is what I'm trying to say to you is that, and by the way, everybody, this is why I don't use terms like narcissist. This is why I don't say OCD. This is why I don't say ADHD, except I know I have it, right? Because I know that this is a condition. And by the way, it's a neurological condition. You're missing like little synapses in your brain. So when you have something like that, that's real. But I think that if she was not, and I love that Stephanie said that, if she was not diagnosed with OCD, where the heck did she get that? I'll tell you where she got it. She got it from someone who was trying to put everything on her to keep her in the room. See, he's a kidnapper. You know what I'm trying to say? He's a hostage taker. I don't know about you, but a lot of people that are not well, we take hostages. When I grew up with alcoholism, I didn't really want a friendship. I wanted a hostage. I wanted you not to leave me. And so if you have that kind of takes work to work through that. But I think, when you take a hostage, that's the point. You're not really present with the person because you're like, it's like Jeffrey Dahmer. You're so wanting to not be alone. Look what happens. And I love that Paz said that, aren't we all a bit OCD? Of course we are. We're all neurotic. We're all whatever. Because you know what? We're human beings. And what happens is there is a natural inkling or I want to say a natural thing of like, gee, everybody else is, so I guess I am too, But that doesn't mean that, and and I even missed it, guys. I'm not going to pull any punches on this. I missed that entire, like, went, whoo. And the reason it went over my shoulder is because it hasn't been around me for so long. The idea of, Gaby's going, well, I'm OCD, and I'm a little bit hyper, and I'm thinking to myself, those aren't words a 20-year-old, 22-year-old girl say about herself. Those are things of like, you know what, you're being a little OCD, or, you're being a little neurotic, or, that could be kind of narcissistic. So what we're doing by using these terms is we're having kids take on a term rather than say to them, hey, what's going on? Because you seem a little bit hyper. We've created this terminology, which is why I say so much of the time, okay, he was a malignant narcissist with, but you know what does that mean? What does that mean? The thing is I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. We have to look at the overarching idea of she, and this is where the danger comes, you guys. She then can use these words against herself, and victims use these terms as weapons against themselves to prove that they're the broken toy and the one that they're with isn't. So you see, that really was saying a lot to me later, because I didn't see it in the moment, because, I just don't want to look at every guy like I looked at Chris Watts, but he was quite the trickster. But this guy is too, but they're different. And I want to mention that as well. I'm going to just jump over here, just to see what's going on. Oh, I didn't know Duty Ron's live. Oh, now I'm going to lose everybody. But you know what? I love him. He's one of my faves, Justice. So what I want to say about this, and there's a couple things that I think are very important that y'all get on this. Let's see. Let me look. Okay. Here's another one. All right. This is the thing I want to say. Okay. I just have a moment about the Laundrie parents. Okay. So let me get this straight. So he came back on the 1st, and they reported Gaby missing on the 11th. Don't even get me started on the 11 days up to that. And their little camping trip. Okay. But here's the thing I don't understand. Think about this, guys. Think about this. Ready for this? So he actually leaves on the 14th. He goes for a hike or a walk in like the swamp. I don't know about you, but I always love to walk in the swamp. I can just say Saturday swamp day, right? But then here's what gets me. They don't report him missing for 3 days. How do you not know? I'm sorry, but okay, so I blew it the other night a little bit. I was making dinner. I was on a call, and I let Gavin out maybe at like 6 or 7. And at 10 o'clock, I'm going, where's my dog? Because he's always so quiet. He's sleeping. I'm like, where is he? He's outside waiting on the porch for me, he's laying down on the couch outside, which, by the way, it's totally open. He could have run off, And I'm like, oh. But seriously, what kind of parent doesn't see the child, their own kid, that they're like maybe a little bit coddling to, in their home? The guy's missing 3 days. Would you seriously go, hey, it's been 2 days. Hey, Brian, are you in the house? Like, come on. That house doesn't look that big. Wouldn't you notice that he's missing? Okay. I just need to say that. That really got me like, yeah, they didn't know he was missing. Well, wait a second. So he goes to the swamp and he takes his car and he's gone 3 days. The stuff they're making up, all right? The stuff they make up is so unbelievable that I promise you that the truth is going to be more boring. I promise. And then now, okay, get this. So his father is he's helping, right? What's he helping do? What on earth? Because you see, here's the thing, and I'm just going to say this. These parents are so questionable. Like, they are so questionable. It just goes beyond the beyond, all right? And I just think they're let's see. I just want to kind of jump in here. Yeah, Stephanie just said they act a lot like somebody else's parents. Rain Love. Okay, this is very interesting, and I'm glad Rain Love said this. It's the only place in the neighborhood with fences in the backyard. And I do think, I had a vibe on this, and then somebody said, I think he's been there all along at the house. And I thought, yeah. But you know what was weird? The camper shell. Do you remember when they got the camper shell and then they went out for 5 days, It's very odd. It's very odd. Oh yeah, now they're meant. Hold on one second. And now they're saying, "Oops, we meant to say Monday." People are out of their mind. Scout just said, "I have 2 dogs. If I don't see them or hear them, I'm definitely looking for them." That's the thing. It's like, okay, it was a couple hours, but he's so quiet. It was evening. I was on a call for a couple hours. I was, doing some readings and stuff. And, when I got off, I was like, where is he? And I realized that he's not here. You should have seen me tear through this house at 90 miles an hour. I mean, you'd have been like, oh my God, she's a crazy woman. Hair like this. I'm like, and finally I opened the front door and he's just looking at me like, I've been sitting out here. What are you doing? You crazy. And I was like, oh, I guess I am. So that's the thing. If somebody supposedly is missing, we're going to say it. And here's what I think. I don't know why I keep kind of picking this up, you guys, but I keep hearing bunker, like underground. And I'm like, because none of the houses in, I don't know about you, but I very rarely have seen a basement in a Florida home. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, flooding, So I think we can look at that where if we go deeper in that, that camper shell, taking that into the woods. And, this has been an interesting case in that a lot of people have come forward too. A lot of it, don't you think, like, first of all, we know the minute a case comes up that's big, everybody and their mother is covering it. And so a lot of stuff you guys already heard, I thought, I don't want to come on for that. I don't want to come on for that. But what I did want to come on was for this. And that postcard that Gaby wrote, and the couple of postcards where she signed Aunt Gaby, I think we were confirmed that she and he were engaged. Okay, that was something that or fiance. Now, this is just old fashioned, but I didn't see a ring. Did any of you see a ring? I didn't hear about a ring, and I'm not even talking a cigar band ring. I'm talking about nothing. The other thing I want to say is that the danger for us of teaching our children this terminology is the fact that terminology like narcissist or OCD, they can use on themselves to kind of prevent or protect the perpetrator. And if we look at it, let's see. Oh, they do exist in that area? Allie, I didn't know that. One said backyard, he's under flower bed. It's interesting you're saying that. And I'm going to talk about where I think he is in a moment because I'm going to pick up on that. I'm really feeling very strongly that because remember, and I'm going to say this because I think I mentioned in the last call, my dad's been around a lot. My dad died, in 2002. But my dad comes around sometimes when something's going on, and he came to give me some information about what's going on in America and all that kind of stuff, which I'm going to do in another call because I think I want to create just more of a private thing, a little bit more private, where I talk about some of the messages I'm getting. And by the way, we're going to be okay. The world's going to be okay. I want to say that. But anyway, my dad came to me and he kept showing me the bunker. And what they used to do in World War II is, they had trenches, right? People talk about that, but they don't really know. Especially a lot of kids today don't know about it. But a lot of the survivalists understand about how to dig into the ground, create something underground like a bunker where you can survive in the winter. Now, why would those parents go somewhere with him for 3 days, unexplained, and then come back? And I think I'm going to talk about that in a second, B. I do think he's alive, but I want to talk about the timeline on some of this because there's something very wrong here, which we all know. Here's what I feel also about the sister. And I want to come to her for a minute because I'm going to tell you something. I think Brian is very, very ill because I'm going to say this to you. I mean, in his brain, I don't think he was ever right. And because think about it. Gaby would say stuff like, oh, he's in a mood, so she'd have to go away, right? He would take her license or whatever he did so she couldn't go out with her friends. Now, these are things, as adults, I'd look at that and go, zero tolerance, bye-bye, bye-bye. Like I'd be out the door. You'd be like, what was that? That was like the Flash. No, that was Tori leaving. Oh, really? Yeah. Like she's gone. So the reason I say that is that most of us know if a guy's taking your keys or your whatever to keep you from going somewhere, or gal or whoever, okay, there is, all is not right in Dodge, okay? And I want to tell you, I really think that Brian has bats in the belfry. All right, there is something batty going on. Even when we looked at in the last call at his Instagram with that crazy Fight Club image, right? Come on, what's Fight Club? Fight Club was an imaginary thing that happened. I think Brian was trying to tell us all along that he hears voices, that he's having problems, that something was wrong with him. And I think that you have to remember too, and I really want to say this, one of the things I want to say that's very important is that if we look at that, sometimes mentally challenged people, because you can't call anybody mentally ill anymore. If you say something, people go insane about it, right? But I'm just going to say mentally challenged. When you have someone that is not quite 100%, sometimes they're the sweetest people when they're normal. See, this is the thing. It's like, why would she stay with him? I bet you he was so kind to her when he was kind. And that's the thing. I even noticed it with the people, I want to say the one person I was with who was extremely abusive. I even saw it with that person, because there were times when that he was so kind, because people who are troubled are often very kind people in moments. So how else could these charming people, beat the heck out of somebody, come back and go, oh, I love you so much. And you want to believe it's going to change. You want to believe it's going to be better. You want to believe, and I'm talking about this with Gaby, that they would stay. So somebody just said, I thought they broke off their engagement. However, if you go back later and watch the beginning of this, I did show a postcard from Gaby on the vacation. There's a few of them where she signed and Aunt Gaby when she sent postcards to Cassie's kids. So that I want to mention now. Cassie, I'm going to tell you something. I don't know about you, but I think that Cassie is between a rock and a hard place, okay? Because I think that, did she talk to Brian? I'm going to come back to the shell and the camping in a second. I don't know about you, but there have been times when people say, hey, did you see so-and-so? Did you talk to so-and-so? Not really. And what does that mean? That means I saw them at a party, but I don't really talk to them. Now, something I want to say about that, obviously she said early on she hadn't seen Brian, he didn't come by. Then we find out he did come by. Here's what I want to tell you. I really think when you've got 4 people alone at a campsite, now obviously her husband and kids were there, there is something, there, and I'm going to come back to that and see. The thing that happens here, I honestly think that Cassie was like kind of one of those, I don't want to know. Don't tell me anything, okay? She knows what was going on, but I think she came to this point where she was like, you know what? I don't want to know. I do not want to know. La, 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 la. Right? So that's something that kind of made me go, huh. And I say this because I do think that Cassie, and think about this too, guys. I hope I know. I honestly think that Cassie senses it, but I don't think she knows it, if that makes sense. I really do think she loved Gaby, and I do think she had a relationship with Gaby. But I think when you look at where she is in this relationship with her parents, you can't come out and say, I think my parents are hiding it from, you can't, because what would happen? First of all, you'd have more people hating her, more people hating him. Why are you telling us more? It's like there's never enough information to get from somebody if you think they're lying. In other words, if you think Cassie's lying, even if she tells you as much as she knows, you're hiding something else, even if she isn't. So I'm not trying to defend her, okay? And that's the thing. And I caught in the Riptide here, the YouTube Riptide said, and I agree with this. She said at the campsite, she and the children were only there 2 hours. It doesn't matter if they were there 8 hours the whole day. You see pictures. Check this out. And this is what tells me something, guys. You see pictures of that campsite where they were. Brian was with the 2 kids. So Cassie alone with her parents. What do you think happened? People talk. Now, I do think, in fairness to Cassie, she might have said, I don't want to know your plan. Don't tell me anything. Or the parents might have even said, we're not going to tell you anything. And she was like, I don't want to know. Now, here's something interesting. Notice how Cassie is large size. She's a very large size woman, right? And you see Brian, who's this, rock hard, kind of like, rock climber kind of guy, right? Thin, svelte, which, whatever. Anyway, that's not a compliment for him. I think the thing to look at here is that Cassie also, with all of that weight and all of that, it's emotions that are packed in. And I'm just saying this because I know when I'm like larger for myself, you know, my own, well, I'm not comfortable, I'm larger for me. There is emotions being tamped down. And I think that she was thrown under the bus first by her parents. I also think the lawyer told her, look, say that you didn't really see him. You didn't really talk to him, because she can say, I didn't really see him. I didn't really talk to him. Well, what does that mean? Even if she's there for 2 hours, she can be like talking to her parents, or maybe even going, hey, what are you doing for Christmas? You know, but I think something's happening here where there's a chasm happening with Cassie. And I do feel for her in the sense that, think about it, I really don't like that people are going to her, okay, when the reality is that maybe she doesn't know much. And even if she does know something, I've got to tell you, I think you're going to be surprised that she's one of those people that will come out for Gaby. And I think that's kind of my vibe. I really think she did love Gaby. And Gaby, from all intents, and remember I just said to you, I was showing you this video, right? Where, not video, the image of the, hi Carrie, thank you. If you look at the image of the, I'll come back to the postcard that I showed you, which I want to show you the other one. Gaby actually sent postcards signing them Aunt Gaby. I always say aunt, whatever. We know that, you know what I mean. Let me see if I've got this one. Hold on a second. Okay, here's one too that is like, okay, so Alex was the girl, Nick is the boy. You're sharing another application window. I hope I am. We'll find out. Can you guys see this postcard? I hope it is. Okay. I hope I'm not showing something I don't want to show, but we'll find out. Let me see. Anybody see that? I just want to say, Carrie, thank you so much for the super chat. It really helps. And it's just been like for me lately. So I really appreciate it. A lot of debt this year. Okay. So I appreciate that. Let's see. Did you have a question? Oh, I love you too. She loves this. Okay. You can't see it yet. Okay. Let me stop sharing. Hold on. Wait, I can add it to the stream. Nope. That's not what the one I want. I want to, this is the thing, guys, because I'm like so, I have to pay attention to that or pay attention to this. I know I can do one or the other. Let me see if I can. Okay, here it is. I want to share. Oh, let me see. Maybe. Okay, I'm just trying to do this. I'm going to stop that screen, and I am going to bring in the other one. Okay, here we go. So I had to pull the other postcard out. Guys, there. Okay, share. Okay. You know, I have to tell you, okay. Sure. All right, it's not going to work. Okay. So I do want to say, let me do this. Here we go. No, I'm just going to stop it because one of the things that's happening is it's slowing down my computer, and that's another thing I need to replace. So we'll just deal with that later. But basically, I'll put the postcards later in my comment section so that you guys can see them. But the reason I wanted to mention them is because it does say on the postcards, love Aunt Gaby. And she sent this to Cassie's kids. Yeah, I was trying to figure that out. The problem that I'm having, thanks, Mimi Out, I know it loops because my computer is year of the flood. So, okay. I'll put it up later. Carrie, I just want to say thank you so much for the super chat. I know I did, but it's really kind, and it means a lot. Let's see. She's the only normal one and knows to, SM says, she meaning Cassie, she's the only normal one and knows to distance herself from the situation because she knows to get out of the situation now and not go down with the ship with her mom and dad. The thing I want to remind you of is that if she's doing this now, what do you think her childhood was like? And I think you guys have heard me say, and I talked about this a couple of years ago in one of the classes. I think it was when I was teaching Chakra Wisdom Oracle cards. I was talking about, and especially when we get into multi-generational healing, and I'll be doing when I do the Watts family tree, I can tell you more about that. But the reason I say this is because when you look at the way people are treated in the family. So here's Cassie larger, right? And what happens when we put on weight? We do it because we're protecting ourselves. We're protecting ourselves emotionally. We're often emotionally eating. We're stressed. Now, I think she and her husband get along well. And then I think that Brian has always had some kind of disorder. I don't have enough information about him from the past, so I don't want to get into him too much in that way. But I do want to cover one more thing, and then I think someone said, do I think he's dead? Yeah. And Shannon said, I don't know if you saw the picture she posted of the campsite, the kids from the campsite. He looked completely normal and happy. So I don't think they talked about it. Here's the thing. It doesn't matter in a sense that they talked about it, because I think the parents cut it off. I think the parents said, well, we don't really know the truth about Gaby. Like, and that's just what, and I think this family is a family that says stuff like that. You know how some families just go, well, we don't know anything about Uncle Richard. Meanwhile, Uncle Richard is the one that felt up all the kids in the family. Do you know what I'm saying? Like he's the perv, so to speak. And I think that when you look at something like that, you start to see the patterns of like how families hide their secrets. Think about that. Gaby really wasn't in her family unit of her mother and father, of how they would hide secrets together. You see, because they matured enough to have their mates, and then Gaby's just part of that. She has two families. She was blessed. And I think I really want to acknowledge the parents, because I do think it's a very hard thing to go through. I'm not going to minimize that. But somebody asked me if I think about yeah, I think, Emma said it too, the idea of here, what a missed opportunity for the community that a family can't admit to a close to mental, she meant a close friend, mental illness, and therefore not seek help because everyone's still so uncomfortable, ashamed of it. Here's the thing I want to say though, they cannot say anything about Brian now, because anything they say is going to be like, it's going to be out there. So they really, I honestly think that that the kids did play with Uncle Brian, right? And I think somebody asked here, I forget who, Cott did. I wonder if Brian asked, if the kids asked Brian, where's Aunt Gaby? And I think it's just kind of like, oh, she's still camping. But that's what gets me. Think about this, you guys. So imagine that you see me and Gavin, my dog, right? You see us driving and you're like, oh, we're having this great trip. We go on this trip. And then like you see me the whole way home. I don't talk about him. I get home. There's no Gavin. I don't ever mention the dog again. Wouldn't you go, where's the dog? I mean, that's just normal, right? Because you're saying, hey, I saw you guys took this adventure. You had all these pictures. Where's Gaby? I think it's really odd that the parents wouldn't come out and say, where's Gaby? But I also think that they know Brian. And I think therein lies the real problem. Now, I'm looking at Cassie's born 1989. So let's look at that. What was 89? Ooh, 89, right? This was, I always look too at the generations, because that was not 90. That was a different generation that after. And I think that, I'm going to be honest, I think what happens sometimes is when you get a child that is difficult, or let's look at it this way. Look at Roberta. I hope no one's named Roberta here. I really hope no one's named Roberta, because I have found, like, I've met 3 Robertas and each one of them was like just odd. But anyway, I'm sure some of you aren't. Yeah, I think so too. Terry just said it. The parents know what he did. I do feel that. And again, this is my opinion. This isn't fact. I'm not coming out and saying this is what, but this is my vibe. And guys, I'm in the business of vibes. Okay. This is what I do. And so I can tell you my vibe on this. And you know what I'm going to say to you? Your vibe is probably picking up the same thing. I'm just going to say that. See, I think so many people go, oh, am I intuitive? Yeah, you are. It depends on how you focus it, right? So some of us are, and I'm going to talk about that because it's such an interesting wave of what's going on with true crime and how much the public is able to help the, don't even get me started on what I think of the FBI right now. But anyway, how much the public is helping with these kinds of cases. And it says, what kind of story do you think Brian told his parents? Oh, well, I think the minute he drove up, they knew. But I'm going to be really upfront and say, I think he was probably in one of his manic states. I have a funny feeling Let's talk about it. I have a funny feeling. Now, it does look like some kind of mental disorder to me. And when I say some kind, I kind of have an idea. But you know what? I don't want to just say this is what he is because I don't know. But it feels like somebody who would have a break of some kind. Because have you ever seen someone who goes from manic to kind of like completely normal? I have. Okay. And I think most of us have. And we kind of go, what? But we don't always. I think especially when we're younger, we don't name it because we don't necessarily know what that looks like. But like someone who is like manic, meaning, cleaning the house, starting at like 8 o'clock at night and going all night to the next night. Now that I'd like to know somebody who does, but something like that. So I think Terry's spot on about this. I know that they said he was not on meds. He said he was not taking meds. He was clean. So is Gaby. I do have to tell you, I don't think either one of them were taking any meds. And the reason I say that is because, they both were all into this health stuff and even, the natural nature kind of thing. Look, something, I'll tell you, I used to have a real thing about meds. Okay. I used to have this big judgment years ago, especially early Alcoholics Anonymous. You were kind of like, if you're taking an aspirin, like it was one of those. But the thing I think now about it is that everything that has happened to us, I think has been there all along. I think our lives have become fractured. And I think what happened to us in the last 2 years, 4 years now, right? 4 or 5 years. We looked at the maniacal situation with our press, okay, going insane over every breath people are taking in the government, okay? Now, some of them are pretty insane. I'm talking about the people in the government. But now I'm going to get back to us. What happened to the public? What were we doing while they were doing their insanity? Well, the last 6 years, don't you think true crime all of a sudden blew up on the internet? And now the press wants back in. They want back into our world, okay? Because you see, what we've learned from YouTube is that we communicate truth to each other. You see, we don't just, and now truth bumps, don't you find out, like you watch, I don't know about you, but I watched some stuff about the Chris Watts case and I go, that didn't happen. And even early on when I was watching some of the reports about Gaby and Brian, I'm thinking to myself, how can you just say it's this? How can you just put it in a box? Because we have been following it. We're not stupid. And so what begins to happen is we can begin to see the crap we're being fed by these pundits on TV. And then what we are recognizing for ourselves is, listen, we can pick and choose. Some people think, oh gosh, I don't like her stuff at all. And other people go, I love it. And then some people go, oh my gosh, I like this one. It is more about what we sense already to be true. And then if we can go deeper with that information, my sense of what true crime is for me is, and this is what I feel football is too, in a way. Football is those 2 hours where you're sitting there and there's going to be a solution. At the end of 2 hours, it's going to be finished. We're going to know who won and we're going to know who lost. And we could still scream for hours. That person would have won if this would have happened if that. But the reality is that's what happened in that football game. Now, in crime, we do the same thing because in a way, when we get a hyper case like this, something that's this hyped, we're in it. And you see, think about it, guys. Yeah, there was some cases that were kind of okay, but nothing could pull them away from the president the prior 4 years. And the reason I'm saying this is because they got so focused on that, they forgot how to do other jobs, like report crime, report things that are going on. And guys, the information that we now know is actually farther ahead than the news can report. They're still reporting like they used to 10 years ago, remember? Well, on Saturday, it looks like, Gaby stepped out of her house and it was 3 o'clock and we're going, yeah, we know all that already. Can you get to the other stuff? Because we're in communication with each other now. There's a whole different ball game going on. So I think we're kind of different people, than, any other time. Let's see. Gaby, that he didn't. Let's see. Flower Moon Florist called about Brian Laundrie. I don't know what Flower Moon Florist. I don't know about that. Okay. Oh yeah, they proved that he didn't kill the Moab girls. The two women, the couple that was on vacation there, they said he didn't. But I'm going to tell you something about it's what I do think is true. And this is something that I think about some other cases too. I think if Brian gets away with this, he's already proven that his emotions can drive him to the point of killing someone. He's extremely dangerous. And I do feel like at this point, it's kind of like, you know how they show you like when a dog has bitten somebody like viciously, and I'm not talking about a dog that goes, you know, and they're like playing with you. I'm talking about breaking skin, vicious, biting. They put those dogs down. And what do you think with Brian? You know, and by the way, if you like this, if you like what we're doing, hit the like button. I don't even know how to do all that, right? Oh, and subscribe. I always sit in front of it. You know, it's kind of like you're more important than all of that stuff. I kind of more into you, you know, and I really love what we talk about here, because I think there's a depth to it that, and that's not to say that I don't think some people, and you know how much I love Duty Ron. There's other people, you know. So let me look at this. Desired said, yes, Tori, they think we're all the idiots. It really makes me angry. Yes. See, this is the thing now. We have grown up. Now, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. I'm going to tell you, in the last 4 years, if you haven't grown up and recognized that the way the media talks to us, the way that I want to say Congress and whatever Senate are speaking to us as if it isn't happening, then something's wrong with us, because the truth is there is some shady stuff going on and the news is covering it. So they're not covering it. Brittany, hey, what's going on, my little child, my little daughter? So good to see you. Yes, Terry, it was debunked. Let's see, they haven't proved it. They said it. They were, okay, yeah. Wait to see what FBI says. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was debunked, but I could be wrong. Well, they do have his DNA. That's true. That's why they went through the whole house. They probably you know, and that was something interesting too. They went back. Let's see. He probably told parents when they're dead. No, I have a funny feeling that he had to have told, and I'm going to tell you why. I think he had to have told the parents that, because they lawyered up too fast. I think they lured up too fast. And I think that they were planning. I just think there's too much planning that was going on there. And here's the thing. I want y'all to think for a minute. Imagine in your mind's eye that you are Brian's mother. If you're a woman, if you're a dad, think about being his father. But think for a minute, if you're a female, right? Or female energy. I have to say everything properly now. If you're a female energy, imagine that you're that mom. And moms are like barracudas, some of them, right? So she knows, what's going on with her son. She knows like his tendencies, right? And I have a feeling he had some childhood rage that we don't know about. And I also think that, you know, because he was so into the outdoors and he learned all this, I think she trusted him and everything else. I think when he came back, I think they knew what happened. I think that the discussion might have been more between the parents at first and letting Brian rest, because I think that what they probably did was had him rest. And I think they brought in the lawyer. Now, forgive me because I have the timeline here, but I don't want to go get it because I feel like my computer's like, hello, we're going to just knock you off. So I don't want to do that. Yeah, I know. See, I would take him to the police station, but here's something else I would do. I would look at this and go, something is horribly wrong. I would feel horrible. And I would go, what happened to Gaby? Listen, I'm the kind of parent that would look at him. I'd go, where's Gaby? Because you see, even though I would love my son, obviously, I would say, where's Gaby? I would need to know. Those parents would need to know before lawyering up. Because it's like, oh, she went to her dad's. Then they would have no reason to think anything up. And think about this. Wouldn't they just call? When they just call and say, hey, is Gaby there? Or when they say to him, go ahead and call her. And then he would say he can't. I think he lied to them, perhaps. I mean, we can kind of surmise 100 different ways, but I think at the end of the day, the parents had to jump into like, you know, just that automatic, like, okay, whatever it is, that automatic pilot thing where you're going, okay, I got to find all this. But I'm going to tell you something else that I keep forgetting, and I want to come back to it. That camper they bought, okay? That camper they bought, and I can't help but think that it was to disguise, perhaps put over something that they were doing. I do think that perhaps they went and buried supplies for him. I think that perhaps they found they had different things planted for him to, use. There's also 100 different ways he could have gotten into a bunker under the house. There's so many things, and yes, the FBI checks everything, but I'm going to tell you right now, if Anne Frank could avoid the Nazis for 4 years, they certainly can avoid FBI. And I mean this because the Nazis were a little bit more vicious, just a bit. So I think we have to look that, I think what he will say, okay, Shannon I have a feeling that he's going to say they got in a fight. He left and camped along the river, hitched his way back. Yeah, he may have some kind of story, but at the end of the day, the reason he's running is because he doesn't have a story. See, we don't know anything till we get the autopsy. And that's the thing. We know that she was murdered. But, you really can't put the pieces together until you get the actual report, because knowing she was murdered makes a big difference between, if she just stumbled. Okay. So if she just fell off the side of the mountain and hurt herself, well, that's a little different than murder, because that's telling us something happened. Let's see. I think he's near parents in Florida. Seems to be coddled, can't function without mommy. I don't know. I do feel, and this is a vibey vibe, I do feel that there's an intermediary. And I do feel that there's somebody who has connected them. I'm not sure if it's the lawyer. I don't know, because this guy is so close to disbarment, it's not even funny. She was out in the open for quite a while. Yeah, I think the part of the problem is that there's a lot of coyotes and bears and other things. I do feel Brian's alive. I think he's very much alive. I think that the issue, though, is, and this is what puzzles me, is when I think of Roberta, his mother, I keep thinking something is not right in Dodge. Like, something's not right there. And I don't know what it is. Like, I can't put my finger on it. It's kind of like, and I think I shared this story with you guys a while back, where when I was younger, when my dad was alive, so it was before 2002, my father had a, a high school reunion. Do you want to come to my reunion? And I'm like, really? There'll be like people over 70 there. I don't think I want to come to your reunion. He's like, okay, since I'm just going to go to France, because it was the 49th anniversary of D-Day, I think. They're 40. I forget which one it was, but it was somewhere in there, the 40s or maybe 50s. I can't remember. Anyway, somewhere around there. He was going to go to France because he had friends there to celebrate D-Day, because he jumped on D-Day. So he had made his reservation. And one of the things I want to say about that is that something drove me to say, you know what? I'm going to meet you in Cleveland instead. Let's do that instead. Because he'd already, booked the ticket. So he's like, well, okay, I'll change it. So he changed his plans. The day we flew into Cleveland, I think I said this, the flight he was on, I don't know if it was TWA or Pan Am, but it was the flight that crashed into, I want to say that it was off Kennedy, but it was in the water. It crashed and killed everybody. I don't know if there was explosive on it. I can't remember. But the reason I'm telling you this is because my dad got off the plane in Cleveland that day, right? And I didn't know, because I'd been, I flew since dark 30, because I was coming from LA at the time. And he looks at me and says, not a word. He didn't want to talk about it at all. And I think it was 2 days later, we were up early, and it was just so beautiful. The mornings in summer it can be just so beautiful. They're and even in the fall, dew filled. They're just beautiful. And it was actually June, and we went for a walk in the morning. Nobody was up, and we were talking, and he was very silent, and he says, "Did you know?" And I said, "Papa, I had a feeling that something was going to happen, but I didn't know what it was." Like, I get feelings about very big things, like, about the pandemic. I knew something was going on with 2020, but I couldn't pin it down. All I knew was that I wasn't making plans to go to Europe. I didn't get, and normally I'm like, I'm on a plane, I'm going to Europe. I usually have my tickets set up, I'm going, and I wasn't going once. So when I say this to you, something's going on here. And I feel like where my vibey vibe is it's something between, it's almost like there's something about these people that isn't hitting me as right. And, think about this. That mother, that father, they haven't come out once and said one thing about Gaby. They haven't come out. Thank you. It's TWA Flight 800. Yep, that was the one, Scott. Absolutely. And by the way, thank you for the super chat. Yeah, Justice said I have feeling too. Yes, that is it. I knew it was 800 and I couldn't think of why it was, but I remembered that. It was so clear because my dad had a reservation on that flight. And I said, oh, no. And he's like, what are you talking about? I go, just, I'll meet you in Cleveland. He goes, oh, you want to go? My dad was like, yeah, and I didn't get into it. But Gaby said on Hope Paranormal that PL tried to push her off. I don't know about that, okay? Because I don't really follow, and I'm going to be honest with all of you when I say this. I don't want to necessarily get into the victim's issues in that way. I don't. The reason I don't do that is because I would only want the victim's family to ask me, and I would only want to tell the victim's family, and then if it was up to them to say whatever they wanted to say about it. I can say that, yes, I hear from that person, or I've heard from other people, but I don't go around going, oh, she spoke to me in this, because for me, I don't think sometimes that's information you need yet. And I think that it's only something that's very personal. And I had a situation where, and I have to do this chart where a young girl was murdered, and I had done a video on it a while back, and I pulled it out because her family contacted me. And they were, I mentioned that I was going to do, because I have his family chart, and I said, whoa, I could see all this stuff in his, meaning the family lives and stuff. And I promised them I would only share with them what I saw in the chart. So somebody like, for example, when I look at the Watts case, I would only look at Chris's side of the family. I would not look at Shanann, because I feel like that's just opening up them again. If they wanted to contact me and they wanted to say, we'd like to hear it, I would tell them. But I don't want to do that where I go, hey, everybody, here's her family. I don't really care about the murderer. Okay. I'm sorry. I just don't. But I also feel like it's not anything bad about a family. It's more like, here are all of the, when I look at the family, I can see where the strings are, and where, God gives us these little golden strings and these little silver strings. And when we put things together, we can see how things happen. And this is why I think it's so important that we understand, don't just reproduce with somebody. You're reproducing with their DNA, dude. Like, seriously. Like, I said this to a friend of mine. I'm like, seriously, dude, seriously? Like, I say dude a lot when I'm talking to my friends. I go, really? Like, what do you mean? I go, you're going to reproduce with somebody who has hit you, and now you think he's a good guy. Stop it. That was fun. Let's see. Have you heard from Gaby? Yes, I have. So let's see what else. What did Justice say? In my opinion, Laundries don't really like anyone. They seem antisocial. I don't know. I don't know what it is about them. Like, I can tell you, like, when I looked at this other family, I can tell you that, I see definite reasons that, for example, I'm talking about Watts. Cindy Watts is the way she is. I can see that now. I can see where things happened. So for me, I can see why people are the way they are. But I feel that there's something about this family, and I do have a feeling, and I can't see. Here's the problem I have, guys. Like, when I do a chart, like a family tree, I can't find certain information. If people are alive, right, I can't find their background. But if they're dead, I can find lots of stuff. And that's the thing about a lot of the you need somebody cooperating with you really to do a tree. But here's the thing. And this is what I wanted to say. Here they go on again. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, hold on one second. Gosh, you guys are saying so much cool stuff. Hold on. He could have the old camper and be living in it. Okay, if you heard from Gaby. Oh, okay. So one of the things that I look at, the Laundries have multiple skeletons. That's what I was going to say justice for. Okay, thank you for reminding me, because my brain was like, I got so excited about it. Okay, so this is what I kind of saw, and this is what kind of comes up for me. This is what my vibe is that I have a feeling if we look at, and remember I'm going to kind of come full circle, and I'm going to wrap up with a couple things. But one of the things I want to say at the start of this conversation, I talked a lot about Gaby's internal pain, right? And a lot of people can just go, oh, it's self-esteem. But like I said, it can be just, her parents are great. They separated. That can affect a kid, right? So of course she doesn't want to leave somebody. She wants to make it work. So she would leave long after. She would stay, is what I like to say. I'm the one who would stay long after the fair is over. You're standing there with the balloons, and where's the clowns? Everybody's gone. Those are the people that stay too long and there was a great book in the, I want to say it was 70s, maybe it was early 80s. If you haven't heard of it, it's a good read. Women Who Love Too Much. It's probably out of print, but Robin Norwood wrote it. And actually, she and I had the same agent at the time. Very bizarre. But Women Who Love Too Much, and it's over-loving because we are compensating for what we feel is something that's wrong with us. Like if I was better, my parents would have stayed together. If I was this would have happened. And I think what we make meaning of is what controls our life. And so a lot of the stuff I personally work with is, what are we making meaning of? And therefore giving the tools, right? If we have the tools to shake what we're making meaning of, we can transform our lives. I mean, that's really the point. And somebody got on and said to me, oh, this psychic stuff is really, and I go, you know what? Here's the thing. I'm not doing this so I read you. I'm doing this so you can intuitively learn how to follow your own intuition, how to do this for yourself, because that's the gift, right? I think I should make that obsolete. I want to see it as something obsolete that we're all able to tap in and kind of go, yeah, this is the truth. And we're seeing it now. We're seeing it right now with everything that's going on in the world. I mean, think of the crazy, I'm getting truth bombs. Think of the crazy shite that governments are doing all over the world. Okay. So when you look at that, you're going, I know I see that. You can't tell me that's Emperor's New Clothes. That is not a new outfit. That's crazy. Okay. So this is the kind of stuff. Let me see. Let's see. Oh, thank you so much, Gina. Yep, Justice. Yeah, caught in the, yeah. I want to see what Caught said. I think women are weird to love more. Or wired. Oh, I was going to say weird. Yeah, that would be true. It's wired to love more. Yeah, we are, because here's the difference between men and women. Women, we are programmed about relationships. You see, relationships are the most important thing. Men are programmed for survival and providing. You see, the hunt, right? And we need to have that relationship when the babies are coming, right? To survive. Well, of course, it's different now, but that's the old idea. Now, yep, Galaxy just said, I remember that book, Women Who Love Too Much. And I think it's really worth a read. I think it's worth, I was thinking actually what I wanted to do was, I'm probably going to do something that's kind of like, one of my assistant actually was saying, you should do like a night where you just pull cards and show people how you do that, and pull back the curtain with cards. And I think that would be really fun, because I think that when you have a gift of prophecy, when you look at it as a gift of prophecy, that is a gift from God. And that for me means that I don't really give you advice. I think everything you need is inside of you. I think you already know your own answers. My job when I use cards or when I use my intuition is to check with you and go, this is what I'm picking up. Is that true for you? And you get to go, oh, yeah, or no. And some people have had readings with me, and they call them readings, but I really call them just more like a, kind of like an intuitive session where we sit together and you find your own answers while I get to be there, and that's the best part. I think that's what that should do, just like any kind of spiritual, support, so to speak. Okay, let's see. Mass media is subverting the dynamics between men and women. Burgermeister, you got it. God, we had a guy in high school we used to call Burgermeister. That's so funny. So I'm going to go travel to Wilmington in a couple of weeks. Wilmington, not Delaware, North Carolina. I want to see what it's like. I might live at the shore. Could you talk a bit more about what you think about the skeletons in the laundry closet? Thank you, Justice. Yes. Okay. And this is where I was going. So appreciate the pull back to that. Okay. So here's what I'm thinking. When we look at what's going on with the laundries, why? Okay, I've never seen a family like this. And even law enforcement said they've never seen anything like this. Think about this. Have you ever seen anything that looks like this? Even, I've got to tell you, like, even with crazy, I call him Crazy Chris Watts. Even when we see with Crazy Chris, it's like he cracked like no time. But I think I got to tell you, I think if the Laundries were his parents, he might, might have had a chance at staying out. I got to tell you something. Whatever these people are doing is vile. I'm just going to say it. It's vile because they claim to have loved Gaby like a daughter. And I think this really incensed Cassie. I also think when I look at Cassie and I look at her breathing and I look at, she's struggling. And I think that, this is catching up. So here's the thing I want to say about that. I have a feeling, and I don't know where. I need to get someone who could find information for me, someone who's a genealogist, and I could then look at a chart and go where it is. But someone in that family had a deep mental illness. And I don't know if it's her mother, her father, an aunt, like her aunt, her brother's sister, her father's sister. But when I see that, when you have a mental illness that's so severe in the family and there's someone who couldn't help them. So let's pretend, I'm going to make this up. I'm going to give you this idea of what I'm talking about. So let's say hypothetically, totally hypothetically, watch this, hypothetical, this isn't true. Okay, because I know somebody's going to go, I can't believe you said that. Anyway, so when you have a hypothetical situation where, let's say Roberta's dad had a sister that was mentally challenged, could never save her. Maybe she took her own life. Maybe she died young. Maybe she's in an institution. Something happened, right? Where she was unsavable. Now, here's what happens a lot of times, and it's not anybody's fault, but you get these families, right? You get these people in a family where it's like the whole family converges, for example, on that person. So let's say it's the sister in that case. Everybody's going, we've got to protect the sister. The sister needs protection. This is what we need to do. And what happens to the father? The father gets left out, right? So there's a resentment about someone else getting more attention. It may not be that the father plays it out. The father may just go, yeah, my sister needed more than me. Most of the time they'll go, yeah. But the way it looks to the father, the child, in this case, it would be Roberta, seeing that sister got so much more attention, right? It can play out one of two ways. It can be that because it was the sister, think about this for a minute, because I know it seems antithetical, but I want you to bear with me. When the sister got so much attention, okay, took away from the father, right, would adore anybody who gave him attention. Think about this. So now he's with Roberta's mother, for example. They have a child, and Roberta has a child. Now, Roberta has a boy who is troubled. And what do you think? How do you think that plays out? Her father was left out of getting attention from his parents because of his sister, even though he was like, it's okay, it's okay. We see that Roberta is going to give the attention to that son because what it looks like to her, she's not registering it as, oh boy, I'm taking something away from Cassie. She's looking at it as, I'm making this up to my dad. Is that making sense to you? So the way spiritually we heal has a lot to do with that squared, that little section. So I can look at a family tree and go, okay, this is what I'm seeing here. And that answers the question, hey, wait a minute. How come, Brian is like this way and the sister isn't? Well, we have different agreements. You see, he may have an agreement with that grandfather, right? That he's reliving that illness so that the mother can give the attention to the grandfather that he never got. So if you kind of start to follow that, then you can look at the other one as having a different agreement. I hope that's making somewhat sense to you. Yes. Let's see. I don't know, Red Eye Ginger. I do not know. So many YouTubers trying to cash in and gain publicity off the sad tragedy. Okay, so I am just going to put you in a little bit of a timeout, my friend, just because I don't know what you mean, and I don't want to get into that with you. I don't like when people do that kind of judgment stuff. Okay, give you a little timeout. You can kind of think about yourself. So I don't have to. Let's see. Yep. What did Amanda say? Exactly. That's why she's protecting him. Because you see, if in fact, and think about this, children do two things. They either want to make it up to the parent, right? Or they're trying to punish the parent. So if we look at a kid who punishes the parent, what does he do? I mean, we can look at any serial killers say that. They're punishing a parent, right? So, but where did they get it? Not the parent. They got it from their parent. Let's see. Mental illness feels like it's from Balto's father's side of the family. Only male children, 90% exact match of their fathers. I don't understand that really well, so let's see. I know the power to put people in timeout. I do that all the time. Yeah, so what I'm trying to say here, here's the funny thing about a timeout. You know how I give a timeout, though? I go, you know what? I got to go think about myself for a bit. People are like, what does that mean? I'm like, it means I'm going to sit here and think about myself, you know? So I think that one of the things is that when people come to our community here, when we're talking or we're having these conversations, and people come in and they do that bomb, you know, they're coming in as a bomb. Do you notice that we're on a certain vibration, right? We're on a vibrational energy. And all of a sudden, it's like, you know, when you're like in a conversation with a couple friends, that's what this feels like to me, right? We're having this conversation. And all of a sudden, this person comes in and goes, hey, you know, I was thinking we should all go outside and play badminton. And you're like, you know, it just doesn't make sense. It's like a non sequitur. So it is kind of, we have to be, let's see, could he be at the neighbor's house? One always makes sure on camera. Oh, Dog the Bounty Hunter. Okay, I want to talk about him. I've had to do it to 2 others today. Just attention seekers. Yeah, Texas. I think you are like on my channel. I don't know how to, I have to get, I think you're kind of, what is that? The mod. I thought you're a moderator. I have to figure out how to get that back because I think because I'm going through the StreamYard, it's hard to figure out. I'll get that. Okay, so yes, let me just look at my notes really quick because somebody asked me about this. Come on, there we go. All right, so somebody was asking me about, wait a second, wait for it. You know, and I do want to say, I think it's really interesting when we talk about the case on YouTube, and I do want to acknowledge, because there's some really good, I'm not BSing you on this. I'm sorry. I don't care what anybody else says. I think there's some really good stuff that's happening on YouTube. I think I get some really insight, some great information. And I think that when we talk about it that way, everybody, I think it's really like when we have this conversation, it's like, that's interesting. And then we go and listen to something on TV that just says, yes, today the FBI took something out of the Laundrie home, but we don't know what it is. We'll find out. I don't think we're as tolerant as we were of the news anymore. I think we're like, if you're not going to tell me what it is, I'm going to go on YouTube and find out from somebody else because I don't need you and your sorry butt and your excuse for what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to know. Just look at this really quick. I was just trying to find it and I don't think I have it. But Dog. I wanted to talk about Dog the Bounty Hunter. And part of what I wanted to mention about him, okay, I got it, is that, you know, I don't know why people have been so negative on him. And I'm saying on him, and I know it's bad, but I don't care. Where's this timeline? I got it. And I have to tell you, I feel like I like Dog the Bounty Hunter. I always have, because I think that that one of the things that is so important about this is that aren't we supposed to like have redemption? Aren't we supposed to say, you know what, that person did his time. He may have made a lot of mistakes, but we're supposed to go, this is the mentality of today, right? We're supposed to forgive the criminals who just are committing crimes in front of us and go, oh yeah, that's fine, they can go free. But somebody who did time 20 years ago or whatever, who's been in prayer, God-fearing in his world, and really working hard to bring people to justice, truth bumps, yeah, he has flaws. Who the heck doesn't? You know what I'm saying? Like, I just think it's crazy. It's like, and I love that Carrie said that. You know, Carrie just said he left his honeymoon to help search. Yeah. And so this case touched him. And I'm going to tell you something. He doesn't need us. He doesn't need the money. And P.S., he's not getting the glory. He literally has no jurisdiction anywhere he's searching. So when I say that, I want to defend him. I don't like those, the people that are so sophisticated and they're like all with tons of, oh, wait, I've got this scroll to tell you that I'm smarter than you. Well, you know what? Just because you have a degree doesn't mean you're smarter than me. And that doesn't mean you get to criticize somebody who is giving his life over to help people at such a high level. And so maybe he was a criminal. And I'm not saying that if we can look at people now and go, wait a second, he has turned his life around. He has, still done a lot of good. And I think, Gina, I'm glad you said that, because I think he is the man. And you know what? I got to tell you, I think he's got more balls than some of these people I see out there. Okay. Because, everybody's like, they're so patsy-like. And I mean this like, well, we've got to find out, you needed to go after that guy. What is it when I know I'm going off, but I do want to say this, that don't get me wrong. I'm very pro-police. I am. I'm pro-law enforcement. I think they do a job that's thankless. Okay. But I also think there are people like Dog the Bounty Hunter. And I watched his show. Okay. Because somebody and it bothered me, actually. That's why I'm going on my little diatribe. It bothered me that someone said, well, his show was canceled, thank God or something. And I went, something, be quiet, you overly educated person. Just because you're so educated and you didn't do anything wrong in your life doesn't mean that someone who has worked his butt off to redeem himself every time before they would go in. And I remember, look, I'm not that kind of like, I believe in God. I do believe in Jesus, but I'm not someone that stands around like he does and prays before he goes. And I go, wow. I'm so impressed like that. I'm so impressed with Dog and how he, look, nobody's perfect, but you know what? I got to be honest with you. I'm putting my money on him. I do think Laundrie's going to be found. I do think he's going to be found. And my vibe was he's going to be found soon. I'm getting truth bumps. I also think John Walsh said he's going to find him by his birthday. Or was it Dog? It was one of them. I do think they're right. I don't think Brian is well in his head, because one of the things you have to remember is that if he is as mentally unstable, which I kind of think he is, he's going to just stumble at, listen, all criminals, even if they're found innocent, and I'm not saying he's innocent, oh no, they're not innocent, they're acquitted. Okay. And I might think of one particular criminal who was acquitted of murdering his wife and someone who brought her eyeglasses. And then he goes to Vegas and holds up people for his stuff. See, one of the things you have to remember is no one really gets away with crime. No one really gets away with it except psychopaths who don't realize they've done it. In other words, the difference I think here is that I do think on some level, I think Brian I think he knows he did it. And I think that the parents are just closing ranks. So that's what I think is happening. But I do think there are some laws broken. But one of the things I want to say to everybody is that we don't always know until later. Sometimes like this dialogue we're having right now, these are bringing up interesting points. And a lot of you are making just fantastic points. And I think we won't know until we know. And that really is the truth of it. So when I look at Dog, though, I got to tell you, my money, putting that down on Dog, because I think he's a stand-up guy now. And I think he's turned his life around. And I will never, ever, ever take away from somebody who has done their time and has turned their life around. And to me, I'm getting truth bumps. That's what I'm impressed by. I'm not impressed by letting criminals go in and steal from stores that are, donating to those causes. No. I don't think that's a good thing to do. I don't think letting criminals get away is a good thing, period. But I think we've seen when people come out and they are changed, when their lives are transformed and they're willing to help other people, God bless them. God bless them, and I support them. So you don't like to watch it, whoever you are, Mr. Highfalutin, you say that. Remember when we were young, highfalutin, like thinking he's all better than you, You don't like it? You're not impressed with him? Fine, I am. And I'll always make a stand behind the underdog who is standing up for what's right. And that's just me. I have that in my bones, that if you want to redeem your life, I'm behind you. I'm with you. I don't like people, oh, well, he's just this. Yeah, he did do that. He admitted he did that. He admitted what stuff he's done. And maybe, look, again, I like Dog, and I have a good vibe on him. I've always had a good vibe on him. I think he really, um, you know, I mean, he's married 5 times. How can he do it wrong, right? Let's see. Feels any remorse or sadness that Gaby's gone? Elise, I do think that Brian feels a remorse. I think that honestly, that's where I think they want to find him quickly, because I think that on one hand, Brian is in shock and didn't believe that that he did it. Like, when something happens, you go, and I just want to go back to this because yeah, exactly, Carrie. Dog did not commit first-degree murder. I just want to say that. That's important. I think it was second degree. I do know that he was there. I don't know I know some of the story, and for some reason, I'm more focused on the Laundrie case, but I'm only bringing up Dog because I do feel that, there are cases in this world where, like, hey, the kid that just shot up the school the other day, he's walking free. Do you think that would have ever happened before? Okay. So if somebody like Dog, who's at least out killing, helping people, now I get this kid who just shot up the school, and they're like, he's walking out all smug because he got off. He got out on bail. Crazy. Okay. It says first. Yeah, I don't think that it was first-degree murder. But you know what, though? I want to say this also, Lisa. There are different laws in different places. Like, you can have, like, I think Texas, it's like, if you're guilty of, like, manslaughter, you can go away for life. There's really different degrees, so, and different cases. So I can't across the board say what the actual sentencing was. I don't know. So there you go. And people aren't always who they appear to be. And Darren, I'm glad you said that, because one of the things we don't know is that we don't know who that person really is. And I think what we're all sitting here going is, who the hell is Brian Laundrie? Who the hell is he? Like, who is he? And why did Gaby stay? And I'm going to tell you something. I think she was wising up at the end. I think that last outburst in a restaurant, I think that was really, coming forward to her. I think Dog went back home. He's hurt. I don't know about that. Did Dog go back home? I didn't think so. I thought he was on the news the other day. Yeah, Gaby was his light to his dark. But remember something that is important here, that I think is so key, is that we can't have light unless there's dark. You can't have a North Pole and a South Pole, and so I think it's so everyone's our reflection. And I think that there was a part of Gaby that had a dark side, right? Because we all do. And I don't mean that as a dark side, like something, ooh. I mean it more like, I think he brought to her some sense of not danger, but adventure. Think about that. Like, he's the one who's like, survivalist and all this stuff. She's like, give me my plastic cup. I gotta, and he's like, don't use plastic. So, there's probably something to that of like we always want to be more like the person we're with in a way, because we admire them. Okay, let me see this. Let's see. Light should not be married to dark, though. No, they reflect off each other. They reflect off of each other. So the dark will take the light and try to snuff it. So that is the truth, Justice. That is what, this is the idea of, if we look at the point of view of like a, say, World War II leader, right? And he was trying to kill people. He killed a lot of them. But if we look at that, there's a darkness around that person. There's a real darkness. There's a depth of danger, right? So when we go to the other side now and we look at what was the light, well, the light was the allies who could see it, and I don't want to undercut the Dutch and some of the different, the underground in France. There were a lot of people that had the light, but the darkness of World War II consumed the world, and we can overcome it. We can outshine it. And I think she was about to. Empaths are often with damaged men. Sometimes, yeah, I think that, and I'm glad you said that, Lisa, because that's one of the things I really work with a lot, is that I think that, we don't have the same filter, because a lot of times we don't even want to look at ourselves. It's so easy to kind of say to somebody else, I see this in your life, which is why I don't do that. But it's very easy for us to see it in someone else and think it's healing us. And that's not the reality. The reality is that we're still playing out our stuff. And I do think that when empaths hook up with dangerous men, I think it can be much worse. And the reason I think it can be much worse is because empaths, a lot of times, I know this has been true for me, we're in denial about it, but we're in a denial where I'm so spiritual, shouldn't I not be that way? And it's like, I had to learn the hard way. I guess, if you're a masseuse, you can't give yourself a back rub. I'm not always the most objective, but when you do a lot of personal work, you do discover your shortcomings, and you are able to see in yourself what you're looking for a damaged person to help you heal. And when you look at it and no longer do it, that's when I think it's okay to do work with other people, because you're no longer in that place. But it takes a lot of work, and a lot of people don't want to do it. It's like a therapist, right? They think that I can go to therapy and I have the answers now to what happened to me, so therefore I can help other people. But if we don't process it, it doesn't matter. It's like having food. If you some food that needs to be cooked, if you don't cook it, it's useless. Let's see. I'm trying to see what some of the chat says. Let's see. She was still young, and I want to say that she truly believes she couldn't cope without him. It is codependence, but again, like I said at the beginning of the call, one of the things about understanding the difference between all of this is that I think we need to understand that there's a big difference between codependent and interdependent. And codependent is meaning I'm going to get something from you. Like, I'm going to get intimacy from you. I need that from you. I am codependent on you, right? Instead of saying intimacy is into-me-see, and my relationship, my interdependency is my first relationship is God, my second is with me, and the third is with you. So when I look at that, when it's in an alignment, we are interdependent. Codependent means that I can take your pulse to see how I feel. That's what codependency is, because it comes from, and it's important to say this, it comes from something that happened that we are trying to fix through that action of being codependent. And what does that mean? It means like, if you leave me, it means I'm a bad person. So that's like a codependency. Now, codependency can then, I want to say, evolve into, if you will, obsession. That's when people stalk people. It depends on the wounding that's underneath. And this is why I am always loath to say, oh, it's just this, or oh, it's, codependent, and I don't want to minimize that term, and I don't want to minimize any of the terms, narcissism, bipolar, antisocial. All of those things are very important. However, as people who are trying to explain and help other people, children don't sit there. Look at what Gaby did. She was sitting there going, well, I'm like OCD, and I'm also like, and she was sitting there with terms that she was not diagnosed in. So what that tells me is we're giving our kids terminology to beat themselves up with, rather than having them really understand what these things mean and the difference between codependent and interdependent. We need people. Why do you think there's been so many people killing people and each other during the pandemic? Because we're so sequestered. It's like we're pent up. Everybody's in a rage, So I guess what I'm saying is, like, everything y'all are saying is true. And I think what I say a lot is, let's kind of do this. Okay, that may be true. And what does it mean for Gaby? What does it mean for Brian? So when we look at Brian's codependency, his codependency has a lot to do with trying to control his environment. So if we look at it and we go back to what I was saying about Roberta and her husband, we always have to look at those things. One of the things that I looked at also is, I think when I look at Gaby and I see that her tattoo was Pisces, right? Because she's Pisces. And when I saw that, I was thinking, this is kind of like she was starting to come into her own. And that's what makes me really mad, because I do believe that she was starting to go, you know what? I am not going to live with this anymore. First of all, she didn't come on and do all those shows. Remember, she was doing so much with and then I said this early on. I remember when I saw that police stop, and that was the first thing I really, really watched. And I looked at it and I went, what do you think it was like that night? Because you see, here's the thing about women. And I can't say for sure about men because I'm not one, but I can say that once there's a switch women have, we have this like switch on the wall, right? And it's kind of like, it's on, right? Because we're always ready for a relationship. Remember that joke? I think it was a Seinfeld thing of like, or was it Friends? But anyway, it was like women are always ready for a relationship. Men, on the other hand, are like, they're not always ready. Okay. The point I'm making is that when that light switch is on, the porch light is on, it's like, hey, you're here, yay! But if you've done enough to turn off that porch light, it is very hard for a woman to turn it back on. And I think that once she was seeing a lot of this, and I think that, here's what I want to say too. I don't know about you guys, but I know like I can put up with a lot. But if I see you if I see you hurt or abuse, if I see you abuse an innocent person like a waitress or like he was doing in the restaurant, I might lose my shite. That might be the end for me. Okay. So I'm just saying that I think that, with her crying and her being upset, her being angry, I think what we're going to find is that this death may have been a little bit more violent than just he pushed her off the side of a mountain. I have to say that I think this was something where she was just, she probably read him in the riot act. I mean, I know I would. Let me see what's going on. I love that. Lisa, I love that you said that. And I think, Elise just said, I think that all people are damaged and hurt in some way. Some people have a natural tendency toward empathy, and others, it doesn't come as easily for whatever reason. Shay, you're so funny. Oh, what's the topic? And then, let's see. Well, they've had a lot of excuse to come up with why they did that. Yeah, exactly. And Vicky said, why cut off Cassie? Maybe they're trying to protect her and the kids. I have to tell you, I think that that may be their excuse, but I think that Cassie was the scapegoat. Now, I want to say this because I think I've said this before, but some of you guys are newer. So I want to say this. Yes, I'm saying in Irish, shite. Okay. What I want to say is that in the alcoholic family, and I've got to tell you that alcoholism was probably the first, if we look at it, the first ism. We've also got overeating, we've got, addiction to food, we've got addiction to, whatever, right? So I'm just thinking all this stuff, your addiction to food, alcohol, drugs, people, right? So if we look at it this way, alcoholism was really the first place we really modeled what was going on in the family. So when we look at that, you've got 4 roles that happen in the alcoholic family. Every child will take on a role. If there's only 1 child, they'll take on all the roles. If there's 4 children, you'll see each child taking on a role, and sometimes they switch up. But here's the general order. The firstborn is always the hero. The hero is the one everybody says, oh my goodness, you can do no wrong. And that child just succeeds. The second child is the scapegoat. The scapegoat gets blamed for everything. They tend to be the black sheep of the family. Excuse me, I can't even say anything that's politically incorrect. I don't mean it that way. You know what I mean. And they're kind of the toss away, right? They're kind of like the one that's not as welcome. They tend to become the alcoholic. They tend to become abusive. They tend to have problems. Okay. Now, that also is a funny thing in that a lot of times, not all the time, a lot of times that scapegoat, that second child, has the best chance of recovery. Obviously, not so much with Brian. Then we have but I think he and his sister switched roles, and I'll explain that in a moment. And that can happen, especially with a boy and a girl. Then you've got the lost child. The lost child is the one that sits in the corner. And a lot of times you'll find them with a flashlight at night reading, or they'll hide in the closet when everybody else is screaming, yelling, and they'll be reading. And then the 4th child is the mascot. The mascot is the most fun. Okay, they're the ones who are like doing clowning around. And if you think about it, all of our famous comedians are often mascots. You can look at Richard Pryor, Dave Chappelle, who's like my new favorite. You've got like these great, funny, I'm trying to think of like some of these guys that, Steve Martin, the mascots are always the ones that they're smart. Steve Hartman was a mascot. That's a different, I'll talk about that murder another time. But, we've got these roles that happen in these families. Now, but the mascot is the funny. You know how they say comedy isn't pretty or comedy is really tragedy? That's because that's the mascot role. So you have those four roles in a dysfunctional family. That's what we call it now. Let's see. Being a therapist, being a therapist to others is exhausting sometimes, though. At least best we can do is to be a therapist to ourselves first. I think, thank you. I think that we have to remember that, therapists, and I don't want to put down therapists. I'm glad you said that, because when we know about these things, when we're informed, I think what happens is that, and this is what I believe in readings too, when you talk about readings or sessions or anything like that, I think that an informed client is the most powerful client, because I think we have our own answers. And that's what you do in therapy. You sit there and the therapist waits until you come up with your answer, really. They'll give you little, nuggets, or they may say something because their job is to inch you along. But as far as I'm concerned, it's like, if I read up on what was it? I'm going to find that book. It was, Why Has There Been No People with One? I don't know what that means, Sheila. Let's see. So you think Cassie became the scapegoat? I do, Emma. I do. Robin Williams is a perfect one too. Thank you, B. Higgs. What's his name from Mork and Mindy? Yeah, Robin Williams. Chris Farley. We can go down the list of Belushi, right? Scapegoats often die. They do die. And I'm getting truth bumps as I say that, because they see so much, and they've been responsible for so much that they often can die. They often are that. Now, here's what happens in the family though. Like, I was an only child. People are like, oh, you're so spoiled. I'm like, oh yeah, spoiled. Yeah, I got all the abuse. See, but the thing is that you can play all the roles. One week I was the scapegoat. The next week I was the hero. The next week I was the lost child. So the thing about a family is that those roles can switch. We can, it doesn't always mean the firstborn, but I think when we look at the Laundrie family, I think we can definitely say that the boy in that family was definitely the hero. Look at that. Think of it that way. If they think, if mom thinks that her boy is a hero, then what do you think happens to the daughter? And look what she's done. She has 2 nice kids. She's got a nice husband. They live in a nice home. She has a nice life. She's basically a good person, right? I would call her a winner. I mean, she's doing okay, but you see, she's not good enough. And so when we look at what's going on again with the parents of these kids, it's like, roles can switch. And by the way, you get put into a role, and often the scapegoat is the one who goes, hey, something's wrong here. And the parents go, there's nothing wrong here. You're the problem. So they switch it. You know how we talk about gaslighting? Gaslighting often happens because the person who's speaking up gets scapegoated. That's exactly what's happening. Has the FBI taken all evidence of any cell phone coverage? I don't know about that. I agree with you that Brian Laundrie is the golden child, but let's take this deeper, right? What was going on with him becoming the golden child? Well, again, I have a feeling that it has to do with the mother's wounding. And this isn't always true, but I have to look at a younger woman. She's about, what is she, 8 years? I'm trying to think. She's 55. I think she's about 12 years younger than her husband, than Roberta and Chris. Now, there's nothing wrong with marrying somebody older or younger or what have you, but when you see some kind of illness stretching out in this family, Cassie is their daughter. Gaby was like a daughter to her, but look how quickly she's just flung to the side. And I've got to tell you, it's like something's going on in that family. Okay. Let's see. I mean, look at all the coverage over fights on YouTube. What does that mean? Oh, can you tell me more about that, Sheila Beck? I don't know what that means. You would think the parents would check up on their daughter and children, considering they were bombarded by the media. It's true. Cassie finally had her big moment on TV. You know what, Cassie, strange brew. I agree, Dawn. Read the birth order book. Okay, Linda May, yes, 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 yes. And you know what? Here's the thing I want to tell you. There's something to birth order as well, but when you add a dysfunction to it, you can, I learned this. I learned this years ago, and you guys probably know it. Some of you are from California. And here's, when there's an earthquake and it's a 7, it's a 7. That's pretty big. But I didn't know a 7.1 meant it was 10 times a 7. And a 7.2 then is 10 times the 10 times of the 7.1. So it's kind of like, it's pretty big. So when we look at that, it's kind of like exponentially bigger and deeper and more. So what are we looking at here with a family that has, that when you look at birth order, and because there is a lot of truth to that, but, and I think there is truth to, for me as an only child, I have blind sides. For me, when a friend would fight with me, I'd go, oh, God, I guess we're never going to be friends again. But if you have siblings, you live together, you get over it, right? You kind of get over it. But I'm seeing less and less of that tolerance of siblings now. And, it took me years to understand that just because somebody has an argument doesn't mean it's over, So let's see. Do you think Brian was a problem child and got all the attention? His sister probably needed attention. That, something I'm going to just say this. This is something B. Higgs just said. I agree with you, B. I want to say, though, I want to say that we would call him the problem child, whereas somebody else said this. I would think, ooh, my baby's the golden boy. I thought, what? Can I be honest? Because I'm a dog owner, right? And I have a friend, and she has a dog that she wants to bring everywhere. The damn thing pisses on everything, poos on it. I'm like, I'm not coming to my house. I am very my dog has never had an accident in the house. So I'm kind of like, you go out. Okay. So I think that's very important. And I do think that the family always assumes that the one who is the quietest or not causing a problem is the one that does not need as much attention. And what happens? That's the kid that becomes an overeater. They become an alcoholic. The lost child often becomes a drinker. They often become, look at people who become great writers, right? Because lost children are they get lost. They get lost in the noise. They can't handle it. So we can read stuff like you think of the Bronte sisters, right? These are two brilliant writers. They never left their house, okay? And that's not bad. That was how they lived. They chose to live that way. But when you think of that lost child, because the world is not a safe place for them. Now, you can look at this as, every time I look at Brian now, when I see Brian and Cassie, I do see Cassie being happy that she's being loved, but I don't really feel that there's a real synergy between the two of them. I think he was jealous of her. Somebody said that, and I agree. Seems like the entire Laundrie family is misogynistic. Okay, yeah. I think, again, me with terminology, it's like, yeah, okay, I just call people a jerk, I just say, well, that person's this, because it's just easier for me. But I understand what you're saying, that reading is escaping. That's what I did. Yes, it is. And also reading takes you into a world that is safer. If we look at that. And Justice, I do agree with you, though. I think that, I think the mother hated herself. This is, again, okay, this is now totally vibey vibe. This has nothing to do, no medical, no nothing. This is nothing that's, I just get this hit that the mother, you can't, I don't think she likes herself. And I think that this probably has to do with, again, if you go to her father, this thing I'm making up that I made up before, but if the father had a sister who was, sometimes you have a sister in a wheelchair, but that child, the sister, got more attention. She's going to feel, the mother, Brian's mother, is going to be so selfless that she doesn't even have a backbone around her in some ways, meaning she'll give up everything for Brian. And when a child sees his mother doing that for him and his father, he doesn't respect her. I know she doesn't. Let's see. Yeah, exactly, Justice. I've never heard of the lost child. That's an interesting phenomenon. Let's see. let's see, maybe Roberta Laundrie, the mom harbors a lot of self-hatred in this one. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Justice. If you think about the mother, and we have to look at this not so much in the terminology of when I say, and the reason, again, I want to just underline this, and then I'm going to wrap this up with a dog thing that I want to talk about really quick. But when we look at the mother and we look at someone who is behaving in a way that is completely throwing her future daughter-in-law under the bus. And somebody said to me, I have no idea how you could see any similarity between the Watts case and this. And I'm going, well, when I look at Roberta and I look at Cindy, I kind of see like they both threw a daughter-in-law under the bus and to save their son in their mind. But here's the thing I want to say. That's where there's some things like that are similar. I'm not saying they're the same people because they're not, but there's similarities for me energetically. But the reason I don't say terminology like narcissist is because, you see, that only gives a victim a reason for self-hatred, especially if they're too young to really understand it. And I want you to get that right now, because it's like, that's only something that we can use after when you break up with somebody, guy, gal, whatever, and you break up with the person and it's like, that person was a narcissist, and you can read up and go, oh my God, they're so true. Well, that's what you do after, okay? But the thing is that if we feed our young people too much terminology without understanding what the actual feeling, experience, situation is and how it can look different. I was teaching, I was teaching a course, and I was talking about, because one person said, well, I got over this and I worked through it. And I said, yeah, and it just changed form. It's kind of like the old thing of the little, again, here we go. Everything you fear, everything you say, the joke of the little Dutch boy, right? He'd put his finger in the leak and then it would leak somewhere else. And so I think that can be a problem when we use terminology, because we're giving Gaby a reason, knowing what OCD is, we're giving her a reason to blame herself when he's the culprit. And that's what I'm trying to say, is that I think we give too much ammunition to children to hurt themselves or to be in abusive situations because they don't understand big words. And think about it. Somebody said this, and I was thinking, if I ran for office, I would try to say in my district, I would say 1 week a month, kids have no technology. You can't go on a computer. You can watch a TV show with your family. That's fine. But you can't go on a computer. You don't do your homework by computer. You don't have a phone, no phone. And everything is old school, right? And kids would be like, what do we do? That's exactly the question. What do you do? And you would begin to discover who you are in that week. I really think we're giving kids, we're not giving them an opportunity to find resolution or answers other than giving them the terminology that the boomers gave you guys. And hello, boomer, guilty. But I want to say this, the more we repeat that stuff, the more we go, oh, it's just this. I don't think that the children have an opportunity to learn. So I just think there's a lot more for us to unpack in terms of, we have to look at the behavior, and then we can say, well, once you see this behavior, it could be this. But unless I know Roberta, I'm Laundrie, I'm not going to know if she's really that way, unless I have her, most doctors go, well, I can't diagnose that without seeing them. Then they're out there now diagnosing. Do you notice that? It's like, understand this isn't a formal diagnosis, but let me tell you the diagnosis. It's like, well, what are you doing? So that's kind of how I feel a little bit. Let's see. I'm sure would love to hear your feedback. The book tells all the basics in every scenario. Oh, yeah. The birth order. That's a great feedback. Hi, Dominique. Oh my gosh, it's been so long. Teresa says, oh, Teresa, what about the parents not talking because they were told not to? Well, look. Once you lawyer up, a lawyer is going to give you information of what to do. And, if your son is guilty, I mean, I've never seen anything like it. The law enforcement hasn't, and I have to go with what, Anyway, so there's another book, Linda May, that you're bringing up that I think is important too, that really helps, especially when you've lost someone in your life. It's just this little teeny book. It's how to I forget what the word is, but how to recover from the loss of love or something. You're right. Brian doesn't respect mother. Brian, I don't think Brian realizes how much he loathes his mother. I don't see. And this is what happens in these kinds of, let's see. I don't, yeah, I think that when we look at the roles in the family, Maria, I think one of the things we can definitely begin to see is that there's nothing cut and dry. Even when you look at someone who's the hero, look how well my child has done. If that's an only child, that can be someone who 1 minute is, oh, you're so brilliant. And then they get in, you can't even make your bed. You're such a loser. So you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So I just want to wrap up, because I know this has been a super long call, but I love you guys, so it's always fun. I want to wrap up with the idea that there's two things I want to tell you. I'll be announcing it anyway, but like I said, my assistant wants me to do an intuitive night where we just talk about things in the world, where, because I've been getting those questions, what's going to happen, things like that. And I do have some vibes on things. So I'll probably be doing it's like the tarot night or my oracle card night. So that's really fun. And in that, you're going to get to experience some of this stuff that I'm talking about with how I would look at something that's going on and inquire about things. So you'll be getting, that kind of thing around, gosh, what roles did I play? You're going to get to see them very clearly. And that's something I like with the symbolism and with stories. So whether, when you read the Bible, you get stories, right? And so when you look at cards, it's a way of looking at stories. And the thing that I want to be clear about is it's the intention of anything you use that has to be godly. Okay. So for me, if you are aligned with God and you're working with this, if you will, the Holy Spirit, I call it one thing, people call it spirit. Some people, everybody has a different thing. But I think it's important that you recognize that everyone has their own answers and that you're not there to tell anyone how to be, so that's very important. You guys are so great. I have to say, I love Dog, the bounty hunter. And I want to just say that I'll never forget watching one of his early shows. And he was it was something about, they were going after a fugitive, right? And they got this person. And I remember Dog giving this person a hug, and I remember how I felt, that when you're wounded, you're wounding. Your wounding is created so that you can help others with it, and having grown up in an alcoholic family, I have that unique understanding of what it's like to be in an addictive family. Dog, being someone who has been incarcerated and been through the system, he, not all, but some of them, I never forget that time. And I don't even know who it was. I don't remember the face, but I remember him hugging that person. And I remember thinking, everybody needs love. Everybody needs a little bit of, what? You did something so heinous. You did something beyond heinous. And every once in a while, we get to see a miracle of something like a Gaby, who brings us to a whole new understanding. And I think if we take this as an awareness of who we are in the world, who are we being? And I think that's so important and I talk about this all the time, you guys, say what you mean what you say, but don't say it mean. Your opinion is one thing, but the minute the opinion crosses the road, and, I can look at my neighbor's lawn and go, gosh, I really don't like the way that thing looks. But I wouldn't say my neighbors are idiots, because that's stupid. They're dumb to put that thing up. They had this thing on the side that's it's a wall, and they put this fir up, and it's kind of, when I say fir, it's kind of like green grass that's growing, and it kind of looks creepy. It looks like it from Addams Family. But I also think it's funny, but do I think they're bad people for doing it? No, that's their choice. So I think that's something we have to remember is to not attack somebody if they don't agree with me, but look at more, what is the humanity that they're coming from, of something. And that's why, for me, it's like, I don't think, if you don't want to be here, don't be here with us, you know? Let's see. Yeah, they're going to show up with cell phones. I wish there was, Sheila. I wish we could see that fight at the Merry Pig. Oh my God, I want to just like, be there. Let's see. I always root for the underdog. And I'm gonna wrap with this. I'm glad you said that, Shay. Me too. When I was little, and I was tiny, and I was also blonde with curls, so figure that one out. But I used to wear a little cape until it wore out to forever, and it had a big M on it, and it was for Mighty Mouse. And Mighty Mouse was this little, here I come to save the day, one of those. And I think that it was always important to me. Heroes were important to me. Showing up and being a hero, being a heroine, if you will, being that person that you can be in any given circumstance. And so what I want to say to all of you is I'm just going to leave you with a brief meditation, which is let's bring down some white light from God. We're going to just ask him to bless all of us. I'm getting truth bumps. I'm being pulled to do this. And let's ask that this week we are all called to the highest energy of ourselves, and then we get to be of service to those that need us. And I think that's something I admire in Dog the Bounty Hunter. No matter what he did in this past, the fact that he brings God into everything. And I say to you this week, no matter what's facing you, allow God to enter the room first and everything will be okay. And I say all of this is all about our relationship with God. Remember, that is number one. And then everything else takes care of itself. See, you're never in a marriage with just you and your partner. You're in a marriage with God, and you make the agreement with God of who you're going to be. Who are you being? And then you give that oath, but the oath is the one you give with God, and your partner and you are together because of an agreement you have with God. So I want to bless everybody, say thank you tonight, and I will say I'm going to see you next time. I'm going to put up a schedule, and you're going to be seeing some of my recorded videos too, which is going to be some series. So I'll see you very soon. Thank you so much, everybody. I love y'all more than you'll know. And remember, say what you mean what you say, but don't say it mean, and allow God's light to just come through you and be the best person you can be in any circumstance. Bye for now.